It's set to record automatically. So
Okay. So just needed that, you just needed that one signature.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
We want yours. Yeah, I bet you do. You got some.
Are we ready?
We're ready.
All right. Call to order, Alpine, City of Alpine Planning and Zoning Committee meeting, 23 June 2025, 5:30 PM, and it is 5:30 PM. I will call to order. City Secretary, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Sounds good. Was notice of the meeting posted?
Yes, notice was posted.
All right. We will go to public comments. Any comments from the public? I'm seeing no comments from the public. We will move on to public hearings. I'll invite members of the public. I know, it's would you like to read that first one?
Yes, absolutely. Public hearing A is public hearing to obtain citizen views and comments regarding replat 2025-07-01. A replat application which would allow the applicant Horticultural Consulting LLC to reflect the updated ownership of a recently purchased portion of public property. The subject property is located at or about 508 South Fifth Street and is legally described as a replat of Lot 5, Block 1, J.W. Ferguson, Second Edition to the City of Alpine, subdivision plat on file in envelope 96, plat records of Brewster County, Texas. The record property owner is Horticultural Consulting LLC. The parcel ID of the subject property is 10378. The current zoning classification of the property is R3 apartment district. If the replat is approved, the zoning classification of the subject property will remain R3 apartment district.
Thank you. Approval of minutes of the previous board meeting. They all look good to me. Shall we vote? You got one change?
No, I
No.
didn't.
Hey, Lisa, any change?
No,
We'll approve the meetings of the the minutes of the previous meeting. Okay, discussion item. Yes.
Who made the motion to approve and who
Oh.
seconded
I'll
the
make the
motion?
motion. I'll second.
Okay,
Okay, perfect. And then if we can just get a quick vote, if you don't mind.
it is unanimous.
Thank you.
Move on to discussion items. Discussion regarding the zoning designation of 601 South Walker. The property ID of the subject is 10842. The property owner is Melinda Vega. In discussing this and reading that, I don't see how we can even approve that. That is so terribly written. It is just open-ended. There's not enough information. There's no names, there's no address, there's no request for a zoning change. I know we have to bring it up. It is on the agenda, but I will be very surprised if there's even a motion or a second. But that I think that is just that definitely needs to be rewritten. Well, we can if the motion fails, they can still resubmit it.
This is discussion right now
But yeah,
anyway, so I
right.
think if y'all want to discuss it,
So that's what
and I
we're.
could definitely provide some insight, since it was tabled.
Okay,
If whenever y'all are ready, I think I have just a few comments I'd like to. go
sure.
over.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go for it.
Okay, so, on this one, I think it's clear that the commission felt that there was really only, one main point of action that could be taken here, and that would be for the property owner, Melinda Vega, to get the neighboring property owner to rezone commercial, so it wouldn't be a spot zone. And from what I can get from y'all's conversation, that's really, at the end of the day, what y'all would recommend happen, right?
first, that's be the first track. I mean, the first.
The
option.
other alternative option would be updating or passing a comprehensive plan, which would make it to where, because both the commission and the council have expressed a desire to see commercial properties along the major thoroughfares in Alpine.
Mhm.
So that is certainly another option, but that's an option that we're not going to be able to get to right away. It's definitely going to be a process to go through the comprehensive plan round. But as far as your official recommendation to city council, if that's how you feel, I would recommend at the action item, making a recommendation that they get the neighboring property owners to zone commercial to avoid this box zone, and that be y'all's official recommendation. That way we can go to, back to the city council, let them know you know, that that's what you recommend, and we can contact the property owner, let her know that that's what was recommended.
And that it be rewritten the way that this is not written.
What part needs to be rewritten? Just that
now,
right there?
just
I mean,
the
if you just
discussion-
submitted that to
Mhm.
the city,
Mhm.
they could do
I
anything.
thought that was how we left it last time,
So-
but if we need to formally do that, and that's probably what we're at right now, then let's just do that.
Yeah.
Formally
Yep.
say.
During the action item,
recommendation.
I
Yeah.
would recommend that. That way y'all don't have to keep tabling it.
Going
so
back
Yep.
and
coming
forth,
back.
yeah.
If that's what you think the formal recommendation should be, which is what I gathered from the last discussion.
Yes,
I like that. I just was wondering, when was the last time we discussed?
last meeting.
The last meeting.
Okay, I mean, before that.
Last two meetings?
Yeah,
It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been for a while. Yeah, it's been.
That's the first time. It's come up in the last two meetings.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it.
Okay.
Maybe that was the third, it came before, so yeah, so.
Yeah, it's the
But
third time it's
definitely
come
the
up.
last two.
And I think even in the first meeting that we had on it, that was the recommendation
was,
based
yeah,
on some- Jessica's, you know,
That's what I thought.
observations. It made sense to me.
And
So,
they were gonna try to contact the neighbor in the hospital in El Paso and, you know.
All we need to do is get their approval and they can go do everything online. So it's not a big
Yep.
deal.
So
I
that,
think it would only help that area if they would do that. It actually would.
I agree. I mean, I definitely empathize with the property owner. I think that, you know, ideally it should be commercial, but we also have to make sure not to, you know,
we can't
to stay
spot
within
them. Yeah.
the law, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Thank you,
Yep.
Gio.
thank you.
Lisa, any,
I'm sorry, what?
Do we need to make a motion
any
on
more
that?
comments on that?
No,
No, that's just
Uh,
discussion.
I'm over here on Zoom and I'm the owner of the Flamingo on 601 South Walker.
Go ahead.
Okay,
And we were in the meeting on May 19th, 2025. And they asked me to contact the owner between Aguilar's and my property. And I contacted him and to see if he wanted to make his property commercial. And I contacted him and his name is Mr. Villarreal. And he lives in Fort Stockton. And he said that Rick had contacted him. I don't know if it was by phone or by letter. But he did say that he felt that if he changed his property to commercial, that his taxes were gonna go up. That was his concern about making his property commercial. And Rick
Okay.
had let him know that the only way that his taxes would go up if he was to decide to build a structure there or put a business there.
Exactly.
But he was not comfortable with that. Cause he said they're not guaranteeing me that if I change my property to commercial, that my taxes are not gonna go up. And I did tell him eventually, like, Gio had told me that eventually, because we are in a main highway. It's the highway going to, Highway 118 going towards Big Bend National Park. Eventually, all that's gonna be commercial. And they're trying to make it commercial, that's to my understanding. Cause they're doing the comprehensive plan. The city council is trying to do that comprehensive plan to make all major highways commercial. So, and I gave him like, cause I did tell him like, to my understanding, I said, you can put billboards there because he had told me at one time that he was thinking of making it commercial so he can put a billboards there. And I said, that's something that you can do. And I said, you can rent it as well to capitalize on it, on that piece of land, if you make it commercial. And I go, that way you can make some money and just, because it's just a piece of land. That's all it is. There's no structure there. And, and I also asked him, I said, I'm willing to buy it from you. If you're willing to not make it, commercial, I said, I'm willing to buy it from you as well. And he, also did not, he said that it was, to him, it was a sentimental value and that property, and he was not willing to do that. So my thing is, I've already been here every meeting, you can ask Gio, and to try to make my property commercial. Because my property has always been a business. It's never been residential. We've had a bar there, we've had all kinds of businesses there. And all of a sudden, I didn't even know it was not commercial till I found this out like almost like a year and a half ago. So that it was R4. And I had no idea because I had it rented out and my tenant wanted to put a studio there, art studio. And that's when she went to the city and that's when she called me and she told me that my property was not commercial. And that's when all this started. Because I always thought this property was commercial. My dad has owned this property my dad was the owner of Aguilar's Pick Pack, which is the Aguilar's right there between this man's property and my property. So, I mean, I don't know what to do anymore because I'm in the hands of this man, that doesn't want to make his his property commercial. And I want to change my property to commercial. I said, it's gonna be revenue for the city. It's gonna bring revenue to the city, be making my property commercial. And for some reason, they're telling me that it's spot zoning. Well, like I've told them before, I've never seen you in the green. I don't know who you are, mister. And I said, like I've told them before, like my property, they're saying it's spot zoning, but there's spot zoning everywhere. The runway, there's a house between the runway and the food pantry. That's spot zoning. Between
Can I
my
get you
dad's
to say your
between
name?
my dad's store and there's a house there and there's another business in the corner, that's spot zoning. There's spot zoning like everywhere. And so now they're saying that it's against the law. And but like what is it gonna take for me to get y'all to change my property to commercial?
Could you
Like
say
I don't know what to
your
do anymore. I'm going on 2 years with you all already,
Can,
like
can
went back
you
and
give
forth.
us your name, please? Can we
My
get
name is
your name, please?
Melinda Vega, and I don't
Okay.
know what you said that everything's not written right. What is it that you're seeing that's not right? I just
Oh,
heard you
this is not
say that.
something the city could approve the way that that's written now. It is very incomplete. There's no address, there's no names, there's no request for zoning change.
Well, all that
Ownership.
information they've had. The jail should have all that information. I've been
No,
doing
no,
this for almost 2 years.
this, on the application, this is not something we could pass back on to the city council. It is not properly written.
Well, what is it? I don't understand what you're saying. Who are you anyways? What's your name?
Matt Walter, I'm the chair.
Well, Mr. Walker, I don't understand what you're saying.
Ms. Vega,
Okay.
I think there's a confusion. What's written on our discussion item didn't have the legal information that was on the previous meeting and it wasn't added here. So that's not your fault. You did what you were supposed to do.
Okay.
But Matt was addressing the way it was entered as a discussion item on our agenda tonight. It has to be put in a
Okay.
certain way in order for us to address it.
It needs a lot more
And then I
information.
have
in it.
Another question just for Gio, because this is just new to me. It's not new to me, but it's a thought. I know you're trying to move forward with your property and I really feel, eventually it's gonna go that way because of what we've talked about in the past.
Right.
That spot zoning is a particular something we're trying to stop. It's happened quite often in the past and follow the guidelines and the rules of the state in order to, stop doing these things and follow the guidelines. So, Gio, my question to you is a land lease. Because apparently the property owner of the vacant property next to hers doesn't want to turn loose of the sentimentality of the property. She's willing to buy it, but if she did a land lease on it, a long-term land lease, you know what I'm talking about? Would a land lease entitle her to come in and request a zoning? Jessica might know that too.
It's supposed to be the property owner.
Well, maybe you could talk to that, Ms. Vega, maybe you could talk to that property owner and ask him if he'd be willing to do a land lease with you if you absorb any extra taxes that might be incorporated with that, if he'll take it to commercial. Does that make sense? Because then he's off the hook for the taxes on it.
Sounds very.
So I would have to pay him.
It's not complicated at all. It's easy.
Convoluted.
But basically what you would be doing is taking over the property, and in a commercial situation, in most cases, the person leasing the property pays the taxes. It's a negotiating point. I know that because I did commercial real estate, but it's a negotiating point between the two. And you could absorb that if it means getting that into your name, and then you can do something with the property because you've got a land lease on it, but he still gets to keep it. As long as in that land lease, he agrees to go ahead and take it to a commercial. I'm just giving you an alternative.
Mhm.
You've
And
had
then say like,
real
just in
estate agent
case,
involved.
just in case his taxes were to go up, like I would pay that difference.
Right,
that what
and,
you're saying?
and if a building or a sign even were to go on it, it could very well increase his taxes. And
Right,
you just write into that you would be willing to absorb those increases if that were to happen in a long-term lease. And you can do a long-term, and then he keeps the property, but he's not having to worry about the increase on it.
It's an option for you to consider.
It's a negotiating point for you to go back to with him, because you could probably, since it's next to your property, do something with that. I can see that. And then eventually, if he decides he wants to sell it, you just keep first right of refusal on it. Which
yeah, I
means
mean,
if he wants to sell
I
it,
mean,
he
I
has to
can,
do it
all I can
first.
do is ask him,
I
but
think
my,
it's not very complicated at all. It's very easy to do.
Should you get a real estate agent involved?
You don't have to.
So-
I mean, if you just read up on it, you can probably do it yourself. And you can pull all the paperwork online. It's easy to do. He may want to ask an agent about it just to be on the safe side, but if you ask an agent about it, they're gonna try to stick their 2 cents in and make some money off of it, and so it's better
And-
off the two of you.
and my thing is, are you all redoing the zoning map? Because like Gio
We're-
has sent me a copy of it through email, and I do not understand one thing in that map, like nothing.
We were having that conversation earlier, and Matt, would you like?
Hope
to
we
address
didn't
that,
email
please?
him.
It is too large to email. It cannot be emailed, but you could come into the city and look at it, but we gotta wait for changes, that have been made, in the legislative session in Austin.
Which we just
and
approved.
Which were just approved, and then we'll get those changes in, and then we'll be able to change the map. I'm thinking by August or September, hopefully.
Jessica was giving us direction.
Just you just update on that.
That's just gonna be an updated zoning map. It's not the comprehensive plan.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
that's just the
it's still-
updated
it's gonna
zoning
be
map, but that has to come before you can do the comprehensive. So they want to do the comprehensive. So now that we've got all the okays in legislative, it should start moving forward. That's what's been holding it up.
And how about that, because they had told me, with that comprehensive plan, when is that gonna go into effect? To change all the major highways to commercial?
What we just said, it can't go into effect
Mhm.
until we get the new map and the new zoning done, which was
Okay.
just done before. So it's all in sequence, and that would be on the other side of that, and that would actually be up to the city.
Yeah.
I mean, to city
City
council
council.
to make that happen on the other side of that, which I think they're wanting to do. So as soon as we get there, it should move along a little quicker.
I don't understand this. Can I say something? please?
Sure.
I don't understand this comprehensive plan. Does the city even have a contract?
No.
If you don't have a contract, have you put out a request for proposals? Okay. So
No timeline.
there's no timeline on that. It could be 2 years.
Only could be in at the moment.
So she's not only waiting for August, then she's got to wait another 2 years.
Matter one way or another, if you try pursuing what I just
Right.
options
Well,
that
that,
I just
yeah.
offered you, it wouldn't matter what happens with the comprehensive plan. You're already there.
yeah. I wouldn't wait on the comprehensive.
Yeah, I would not wait on the
There you go,
comprehensive.
that's what-
But it is something to look forward to in the future.
I mean, I can talk to the owner of that property to see if he's willing to do this. But
It sounds like what you said was he's worried about it increasing his taxes, and if you're willing to do that and he doesn't want to sell it, then just do a long-term land lease and absorb the cost and let him know down the road, you know, that if he decides he wants to sell it, come to you first.
yeah, I'll contact him,
Hope it
first thing
works for
tomorrow
you.
morning
Big problem.
and see what he says, but but my thing is like, if he's not willing to do that, like, what's it gonna be for me?
We
You
can't
know?
answer the question. Basically, right now, what we're doing is saying we need to get more people up and down that road on the either side of you interested in changing their zoning.
Mhm.
And to be honest, it could be done. I'd love to see it done. I'm sure most of us would.
Yep.
Before we get through with all the zoning map codifications and things later on.
I mean, it's just a question I want to throw out again, is commercial property valued higher than residential property?
Only the dwelling that's on it.
Only the dwelling,
The
I
building,
can
the
tell you
building
that,
itself,
yeah, the
the
building,
building.
anything that's on it, because
not the land.
not the land values.
It's like if my property has the structure there, so once I make a commercial, is my taxes gonna go up? Cause there's the structure
Probably.
already there?
Probably, yes,
Okay.
Take it
probably.
from someone who knows, yeah.
And like him, he doesn't have nothing there, it's just empty, like nothing there, so his taxes shouldn't go up.
They shouldn't, no, unless a dwelling's put on it or something.
Or a sign or something like
Yeah.
that.
Something that's gonna create revenue will increase his taxes.
And more likely, the comprehensive plan will increase its taxes. Because
Can't-
it
we can't.
becomes.
We don't know
Yeah, we
that.
can't
We
tell.
don't
Well,
know
it'll be
that. We don't
commercial.
know that.
That's the plan anyway.
Just, you know, let him know that if it does, write that into your lease. If his taxes increase over X number of dollars, whatever he's paying right now, you're willing to absorb those costs. That's what he's worried about.
I guess it's a
Okay,
good solution.
So-
Penny.
So when's the next meeting for the zoning and planning? Cause I'll talk to him, I'll call him tomorrow morning. So
Once a
what
month.
is it that I
Once-
have to do?
once a month. So the next meeting, when is the next meeting, Jill?
So I have to wait another month to,
No, well, that gives you time to talk to him, do some research on the lease
July
that he
20.
wants.
July
And
28th?
then
Okay.
have that written up where he's comfortable with it, because you don't want to just try to shove it through real fast with him, because then he's gonna go, whoa, wait a minute. You know, he doesn't even want to pay taxes. Give him 30 days from today, pretty much.
July
is when our
28th,
next
July 28th
meeting
is the next meeting.
July 28th.
Just get it in before then.
And just remember
Speak with him.
with city, nothing happens very fast. It's not actually designed to.
Oh, I know that.
But I think that may work for both of you. Hopefully it would. It
And
will.
then get help submitting the application, because it has, you know, if you read the application before that and the notes, that's a kind of a standard application. With all the information on it,
The application for what?
for rezoning.
The reason.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So if you have a spot zoning in other places and you change the zoning boundaries to
Mhm.
matches that spot zoning, which is allegedly illegal, then it's no longer spot zoning anymore. It's a real zone. Right.
It's taking it where it needs to be anyway, but
Right.
right now,
We hope,
according
we
to
hope.
the rules, we can't go there.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't mean it's gonna be that way. I mean, that's the idea. That's-
Yes, that's.
And
the idea.
And another thing that I had thought about, because like if my property is in a highway frontage, main highway, is that still against the law to consider spot zoning there? Even though it's a major highway, it's
It
still
has to do
considered,
with the surrounding
Yeah,
neighborhoods.
it doesn't have to do with the highway itself.
It doesn't have to do with the
Okay.
highway. You've got residential across from you and all those, and so the highway didn't used to be there when it was, I'm assuming, when it was zoned the way it was, and it just needs to be cleaned up, which truly is what we've been trying to do for the last
Yep.
year now.
Yep.
So this would help us help you.
okay, well, I'll try to talk to him about that and let's see what he tells me, but hopefully that will work.
I think
And
so. Find out what his reservations are and overcome it within a land lease with him.
Okay, any further discussion on that?
Thank you, Ms. Vega.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the action item. And it's a replat, for ownership. Well, let's see, who wants to read this?
I'll read it,
Okay. Okay.
I guess. If I make a mistake,
Uh,
don't get mad at me.
Yeah, Gio read the first.
Okay, so just action item, number 6, A is approve replat, 2025-07-01. A replat application which would allow the applicant, Horticultural Consulting LLC, to reflect the updated ownership of a recently purchased portion of public property. The subject property is located 508 South Fifth Street and is legally described as replat Lot 5, Block 1, J.W. Ferguson, second edition of the city of Alpine. Subdivision plat on file in envelope 96, plat records of Brewster County, Texas. The record property owner is Horticultural Consulting LLC. Parcel ID of the subject property is 10378. Current zoning classification of the property is R3 apartment district. If the replat is approved, the zoning classification of the subject property will remain R3 apartment district.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second? Okay, Gio, this is that property over behind the church.
Behind
Yes.
the park, actually.
Yeah.
Drove that. Okay, so is the little
Little brick,
section
the
in
little brick
corner
building is
on
very,
the left?
yeah.
And then there's the little, it looks like there's a wall and maybe
Mhm.
another little parcel of land there. Is that part of it? Because it was a little confusing.
Somebody lived there.
No.
It's on,
Yeah,
it's
it's a
on the
dead end.
replat, that replat page.
Mhm.
It's listed.
Let me look at that again.
And then my next question is, purchased public property, what public,
Yeah, that
what was?
kind of
pub-
confused me a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't think you could purchase public property. without-
So, essentially, the city does own various properties and it's considered public property throughout the city. It would be like unimproved alleys usually, or streets.
Yeah, I know about
Oh,
those, but I was
okay.
trying to figure out which portion of this was.
So it's basically what's considered the terminus or like the ending.
The
of
dead
South
ends right there,
Fifth Street. Uh-huh.
The dead end part of the street?
Yeah, they purchased the chunk right after the road ends that kind of sits up on the mountain.
Oh,
And they
okay.
want it to be adjacent to the property. They already own, they have duplexes up there.
Yeah.
And then
saw
they
that.
actually own the property to the side of it, so their plan is essentially possibly in the future to plat it all together. But right now, they just want to do this first section platted together.
Would there be a new street?
Huh?
Would there be a new street then?
No, it won't be
No?
a new street, it'll be their house, it'll be their
Okay.
property, but at one point, because they demolished the house that was to the left, or
That's
there's a
what I was-
landing, yeah.
Okay.
And they wanted to build something there, but what they wanted to build was not a house, it wasn't a residential dwelling, it was more like a shop. And so what I had suggested to them is if, since they own the property on the other side, is to try to purchase that piece of land and replat it all together.
Okay.
Right now, they're not replatting them all together. She said they're kind of thinking about something else right now, but in the future, they might build on that other lot, but right now they're just platting what they purchased.
But they went through the process to purchase it. It was approved through city council, and part of that is them agreeing to replat the property
Okay,
so that the public record remains up to date.
okay.
And the zoning would not change. And the
No, it
zoning,
stays
the zoning actually stays the same.
I just put that on there
Yeah.
just to kind of confirm. with
Even
everybody.
with the new, right, R3, it would be R3. I really like what they did across from it. I looked at, because I turned around, I was like, well, this looks really nice. Maybe these are the people trying to.
They own the little casita and then the duplex up top.
Yeah.
And I know they have issues with parking, so I don't know if they're gonna do something for parking or what, but
Parking.
everything that
Makes
they've
sense.
done up there is really pretty.
Yeah, because you could barely turn around.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Mhm.
Are we ready to vote?
I am.
Yeah.
Aye,
Aye,
I'm fine.
we are,
unanimous.
we are,
I-
Do you vote?
yeah, I
Okay.
did, yeah.
all right.
Sorry.
We
I
are
wrote it
unanimous.
Down, sorry.
Nice. And then
This is the one I think we need.
this one here, part B, I think we need to, this is something we can't vote on right now. I don't think, I think
So,
so.
so essentially, I can, provide some context there. The city council only asked for your opinion on a recommendation. It's not a formal zoning change, or there was a formal application submitted at one point last year, I believe it was, maybe 2 years ago. That, is when we do the official language, et cetera. But
Okay.
it went to city council earlier this year. They sent it back to P and Z just to kind of get some feels. It's not nothing official. You're not changing the zoning. It's more of a recommendation on the action that the city should take to accommodate the property owner or what options, the city has. They wanted your opinion. So, we've explained those options and it's only a simple recommendation they're asking for, not an official zoning change. Recommendation, like I said earlier, could be, well, we recommend you get the neighboring property owner to rezone.
Work with the
commercial.
neighboring
Okay.
property owner to,
Something of
to
that nature, which would then go back to city council and we could
encourage
advise the
more.
applicant, okay, then they need recommended you rezone with the neighboring property owner, then an application would come in.
Can that be put in writing before it goes to the city council? Or can that be put in writing that way before it goes
That's what
to,
you would do
before
for
you?
it.
So essentially, this is your opportunity to make an official recommendation that we'll send to city council, let them know that you recommended that. And then we can get with property owner, let them know the recommendation. The council can consider that recommendation first and then they can choose to, do ultimately what they want to do. It's just they wanted your insight, which is why it's written pretty simply, because right now it's not a zoning change application.
Okay.
So my recommendation is just that,
Contact the owner?
The-
Mm,
that she contact the owner with an alternative as far as like what they can do working together going forward. And then get back with us in the next meeting,
Period, yep.
yeah, on the 28th to do so. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And if you'd like, you can just table it, because if y'all are gonna be discussing it anyway, then we'll just bring it back at the next meeting.
Yeah, the
if
way this,
that's the case.
Can we
this
do that?
reads is just,
Yeah,
for-
if you
Because
can
that's
table it
just
again.
taking it to the city council and they're not gonna do it. They're so, okay, and then send it right back to us.
I mean, if that's the case, I'd recommend tabling it.
Just
so we
table
can
it.
Just discuss it.
Yeah.
again next
Bam.
month.
Let's do that.
well, the way it's written is regarding the zoning designation. So it's not regarding a zoning change. It's just, actually, they're just telling us to look at it.
And so if somebody wants to make a motion to table, and then we'll get that.
I'll make a motion to table it.
Yeah.
Perfect. And
I'll
then
second
we can
that.
Get a vote if y'all are down.
All
with
votes?
this.
Aye, we are unanimous.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Board member comments? Being none, we stand adjourned at 18:01, 6:01.